Welcome, 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 everybody, to Caribbean Masterclasses. So I'm so excited for you guys to join us live. We are in celebrating, I want to say, season 3 of Caribbean Masterclasses. So happy to have you all here with us tonight. And we have a very special guest to help us launch season 3, making this the November we all remember because of the fabulous content that we're hoping to have as we host our Caribbean Masterclasses. For those of you joining us for the first time, Caribbean Masterclasses are simply an opportunity for us to hear the stories of some of our most thought-provoking leaders and dynamic personalities throughout the region. And I've been honored to host many individuals over the last 2 seasons who do just that. As you all know, feel free to put your comments in the chat. We want to hear from you. Our special guest definitely wants to hear from you. And I know that you're waiting anxiously to see her. So I'm not going to spend too long in the preamble, but just to say that this is the first masterclass, and then we'll be having our second masterclass on November 16th. We will be hosting then Miss Daphne Ewing Chow, and she's the senior contributor for Forbes.com. And we'll be enjoying her session as she talks about how we show up in the Caribbean on a global scale or in a global or international level. So you don't want to miss that one either. So I'm going to make sure to put the information on the screen where you can email us and subscribe to more great content, Caribbean Masterclasses. So on to our guest. Our guest is Juliette Bodley, and we all know her and love her as Miss Julie Mango. And interestingly enough, she got that nickname when she was a child because her father caught her eating dozens of Julie mangoes under a tree one day, hence the nickname. Now, she started acting when she was in high school, but last year decided to take it to a new platform by providing some of the most hilarious skits on Instagram and TikTok. And if you are not following Miss Julie Mango, get to getting. Take a look at what she's producing on TikTok and Instagram. And it's actually something that so many of us are enjoying because it's a hilarious take. While she focuses on life in Jamaica, everybody across the region can appreciate it because we all see ourselves in the skits that she does. And what is also interesting is that she does that while holding down a full-time position, working as a structural engineer and a life coach. So I am so happy to get the ball rolling with this masterclass and ask some of the questions that you may want to ask and want to learn more about Miss Julie Mango as I introduce her from backstage. So please give a warm Caribbean Masterclass welcome to Julie Mango. Hello, 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 hello.
Hi, everybody.
So I'm really happy to have you here. And what is great is that as people join, they'll be able to watch the content as we stream it live. But I have a few questions for you. And then, of course, I'm monitoring the chat and the comments for people to add theirs as they're watching.
Guys,
So
don't be afraid to ask questions. Please ask away.
excellent, excellent. And so we talked about you have a very interesting story, and we know you from all of the hilarious skits that you do, and but you also are very serious about health, particularly mental health. So when we were talking about this Caribbean Masterclass, one of the things that we talked about was how humor is so important and crucial, even more in the last 2 years for us to help manage the anxiety and the stress of what is happening so rapidly, and so challenging for people. So, but I want to start off first of all because you love acting and you love comedy. Now you've got a sense of humor that's been instilled in you from a family perspective, right? um, but you chose TikTok as your stage, and then you went on to Instagram. So what made you to decide that you were going to try this TikTok platform, and to build the viewership that you've built over the months?
I mean, all of it kind of happened by accident because my stepmother, my dad's wife, she sent me a video of someone imitating praise and worship in America versus praise and worship in Jamaica. So, in America, especially, and I'm not being stereotypical or anything, but most of it, because I live in Missouri, so most of the churches that I go, right, when you praise and worship, it's our God is an awesome, oh yeah. And that's not how we worship in Jamaica. We take tambourine and we boom flick and king poopa lick and get and all of them things there and have a rag. It's a party in Jamaica. Not to say it's not a party here, it's just a different kind of atmosphere. And so when my stepmom sent me that video, I was like, I'm gonna just reenact this video for the fun of it, and I did it. And I posted it on TikTok. That time I had like maybe 500 followers, and I wasn't really posting anything.
Yes.
And I posted that on TikTok, and to my surprise, somebody shared the video with me on my WhatsApp saying, this video is circulating. So I'm like, huh? And then Sparky Baby Official posted it on her. That's DJ Sparks in Jamaica. She posted it on her Instagram. And then I shared it to my Instagram. And then that's when things started to bubble over.
So it's so interesting, that's how it all started for you, because you'd been on TikTok already because you already had had built up 500 followers and so on, and now it just kind of exploded as people started to watch you. And one of the things that I love is that you mentioned that the first video that really blew up for you was a humorous take on how we worship. And what I love is that your faith is instrumental in what you put out. You're not afraid to put out content that speaks to your faith. And do you find that difficult in a society where people are sometimes reluctant to talk about God and spirituality? Or what has the reception been for you?
I mean, yeah, I find it difficult. I do. And therein lies the meaning that you must expect persecution. Like some people think persecution is putting you down in your knee and shooting your bow in your forehead, but that alone is not persecution. Persecution is just feeling like you can't just be your true self. Persecution is just feeling like you can't go on the road and say, "Oh God, you're goody, man," and people look at you, Lord. But if you go there and say, "Oh wow, the flowers are so nice," people are like, "Yeah." But you can't really say God is good. You know what I mean? So I do feel, and then like sometimes when I do the Bible stories, they don't get as much views as just straight comedy. You know what I mean? And the Bible stories are really near and dear to my heart. Like when I read the Bible stories, some of them are so funny. Like if I was there when Jesus flipped over the table in the temple, I would be dying with laughter that the Messiah is getting angry. And so I do feel a little bit restricted and challenged, but at the same time I am by no means going to break that structure or to betray the Holy Spirit or anything like that.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that in terms of even seeing what happens with the viewership when you put that type of content out versus what would be considered more general content that people think is a little less spiritual.
Yeah.
But what I do appreciate is I'm seeing more and more on Instagram people Christians who are embracing it as a platform to add humor and to bring humor, but the humor that Christians can understand or appreciate. So humor, You talked about your when we were having our conversation about the class, you talked about your family and how important humor is in your family. So tell us about that, because then humor is clearly something that connects who you are.
I mean, my family, we are not void of problems, you know. There's so much drama. All of my dad's uncles have at least married twice or thrice,
Mm-hmm.
have wives thief them and run. You know what I'm saying? It's not
Yeah.
like we are just humorous and happy and hunky dory. There are just so much crosses, you know,
Yes.
in our family that we've had to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And even so, I am not the only person in my family that suffers from mental health. I had a grand cousin who actually did commit suicide. We
Okay.
call him Uncle Pendley.
Mm-hmm.
He did commit suicide when I was a little girl. I didn't know about it until I got older.
Yes.
So, you know, we have stresses just like
Mm-hmm.
everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's on purpose, but from my grandfather, I didn't meet my great grandfather because he died before I was born. But from my
Mm-hmm.
grandfather, my grandmother come down. Anytime when a problem comes up, they crack a joke about it.
Yeah.
So my dad gets divorced, they crack a joke about it.
Mm-hmm.
Joke, they crack a joke about it.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody has a brain tumor. My dad has a brain tumor. His wife, which is not my mom, his wife now says, "Boy, you're no longer a lion, you're now a lamb." You know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so
So,
we crack jokes about, even though we still show each other love and we still take things seriously, we crack jokes about it. And that, I think, is our coping mechanism. That is
hmm.
just not toxic. It's just kind of freeing. So
I
then
mean,
we use, yeah, go ahead.
no, you finish, you finish.
Yeah, so we just use humor. So it's like it's ingrained in us for some reason, and we just
Mhm.
have the ability to just crack a joke or give stories. And my dad and my uncles and my grandma, they're excellent storytellers. It's like
Mm.
if when you come to a family gathering like Christmas time or when it's grandma's birthday, it's almost
Mhm.
like you're on an episode of Hilangoli Ride.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi. So I would say you've touched on where we wanted to also kind of take the conversation with regards to mental health. So humor for you, even as you observed in your family, was a coping mechanism. And what is fascinating for me is that some of the comments I got when we were talking about hosting you in Caribbean master classes is people were saying things like, she gets me through the day. I have a good laugh and I get through the day. But you talk bravely and boldly about your mental health journey, which in itself is huge because we talk about
Because me not the shame tree.
no, but it's huge because in the Caribbean we don't like to talk about mental health. There's a stigma associated with it. There's a shame and a guilt associated with it.
Shame. Mhm.
Yeah. Even though we know that it runs through our families and everything, we just don't want to talk about it. It's like
Mhm.
that which will not be named. So,
Yeah.
but you have come out to be very bold and brave, given your profile, because you are a celebrity, right? So, given your profile,
My best friend's niece, who is 6 years
mhm.
old, says, Auntie Julie is not a celebrity. She's just popular.
Okay, let me tell you, I have two. I have
Correction.
nieces right now, um, who are watching you. So I have to say thank you because I don't. This I think this is their first Caribbean master class, and it's because I'm hosting you because they love you,
Oh
right?
my gosh.
No, but then again, that speaks to your reach because if you have, young children that can watch you and older people who can watch you and everybody can still laugh. I mean, that's an incredible reach. And then it goes back to the fact that you have an incredible reach. You've got all of these followers, and you're not afraid to speak about your journey. Now, what does that do for you? How is that? How has that been? Because that must be a process.
I mean, so I had to be healed before I could talk about this. Because I used to talk about this on social media before, but
Hmm.
that was before I was at this stage. I shouldn't say healed because healed means there's no such thing as healed, because as long as you're alive, you are growing, evolving, and changing and becoming better.
Yes.
But up to about 2 years ago, I had a previous Instagram account that I would post my journey and my suicide attempts and stuff, but it came off really sad, and somebody even reported my account. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah, and it didn't get banned or anything, but I got a notification from Instagram. And I think that was God's doing, because he wasn't ready for me to come out like this. He wasn't ready, because he was still working on me, and so I had to take care of myself first. And at that time, I was still kind of rebellious, because I had a therapist. God bless my therapist. She's so patient with me. She was telling me, not yet, Juliette, because she's Jamaican. Not yet. Not. I'm like, you're just being bad mind. You don't want me to excel. That's your problem, right? I was thinking that, right?
Yeah.
And of course, that did not work out. I also had a previous TikTok where I didn't even know myself. I was just doing any little trend, and I duetted this lady that spoke about rich cars and stuff, and I got 13,000 followers in one day. I ended up deleting that TikTok account anyway. So what I'm saying is that I was trying to get out there. I was, but then God just locked it down because it wasn't time yet. So now what it is that I am in a better place now, emotionally and mentally, in my journey of healing. And this is the point where I can now share with people. And persons have for example, when Neglina posted that I attempted suicide, not Neglina, was it Neglina? Yes, the Neglina. Somebody commented underneath it, I like she tell she never wanted the attention she look. Right, but if it was before now, when I saw that comment, it would have sent me into depression. But then I understand that it's just for want of knowledge why a person would say that. Yeah. And I even went and looked at their profile, and it is clear that that person themselves is suffering from depression. And that's how it comes out sometimes. So the journey for me is I had to take care of myself first, with the help of my therapist, and of course with the help of God. And then this is how I was able to share the journey. When I shared it, when I put it out on Twitter, it was almost like a Me Too movement. People DMing me saying, "Me too. I tried to commit suicide once. I had a friend who committed." And people are coming out of the woodwork. That's coming out, right? Yeah. So it has been a bit scary, but I just leave it to God, Yeah.
And I love that, because that's faith. So there's your faith, and then there's the therapy that you're going through. And it's interesting, because again, when you think about getting help, when you have mental health issues, there's a stigma even about how we get help. And for some people, the thought of therapy is something that other people do.
It's a white people thing.
Yes, it's not something that we do, and there's a stigma around that, which is so sad to see, and so sad to that there are many people who don't get the help they need because of this lie, because that's what it is. It's a lie. Now I have some questions. They're coming in. So one of the questions
is private chat or comments.
Comments, yes. Yeah. So one person is saying, yes, sir. Listen, they're chatting with you. One person is asking here. I'm going to go to Jillian's first, and then to Powder Monkey Gourmet Treats question. So Jillian asked if you experienced those mental health issues from a young age, or was it on the onset of adulthood?
No, so I started to cut myself when I was 8 years old. I took a bottle stopper. It was right under that same mango tree. There was a bottle stopper in the yard, and I took the bottle stopper and scratched my hand just for the fun of it. And I was like, oh, this is bleeding. Let me scratch it some more. And I don't know. Listen, I don't know, but it felt good. And of course, in my 8-year-old self, that never sounded right, because I don't see my parents doing it or nobody at school not doing it. So something not right. But I was like, whatever. Because as a child, I was like a happy-go-lucky. My sister was 12 years older than me, so she wasn't at the house. So I was the only child, and my parents basically let me do whatever I want. So I was just going bicycle to my neighbor's house, play with this neighbor, that neighbor, come home. So I could do anything that I wanted in the neighborhood and stuff. So I didn't really tell them that I did that. So then they didn't know. But then what I realized is that I started feeling depressed in the house as a child, 9 to 10. I felt depressed, and my parents were depressed too. Remember, we always try to do better for our kids, but the better is only better than what we have had. So my
Right.
parents themselves had a really, really rough childhood, and it carried over into their parenting. So
Hmm.
my mom was cussing, there was fighting, there was fighting between my parents, arguing, all of that. And then I now started to get depressed.
Hmm.
And then my parents eventually got divorced. And you know how moms are when they get divorced. They tell the child the worst things about the father, and tell the child that the father abandoned them and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
our parents legitimately are doing their best, and sometimes their best is the worst thing for you, and
Hmm.
nobody's guilty, or it's not my parents' fault or anything like that. It's
Right.
just a generational cycle that we have to look
Yes.
at and stop it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I started to cut now. So when I realized this cutting thing kind of nice, when I
Hmm.
went to high school, that's when I started to cut more frequently. I used to cut on my left hand. You used to see cuts all the way up to my shoulder.
Wow.
And I used to go to school and people would think I'm a freak. And I used to be ostracized and people laugh after me and wonder if something wrong with me.
Yeah.
But even through that, I had very good friends, very close friends who, it doesn't matter how much time I cut, they're gonna hang out with me and try to be nice to me and stuff like that.
Right.
So it was from childhood, not just adult. It got worse as time progressed.
You just jogged so many questions for me, and I'm going to go to the powder monkey question shortly. But first of all, the fact that you talk about the generational aspects of it. One of the classes that, well, one of the things that I once attended, it was a session here in the Cayman Islands, and a lady was doing some work on parenting in the Caribbean, and I'm hoping I can get her in a master class because it just blew me away. And the connection that she made, even as far back as slavery, and how generation after generation, there are things that are perhaps encoded in our DNA that we have not dealt with, trauma that we have not dealt with. So the fact that as a child, you entered into depression so early, and you could see that even in your parents, and that meant that, again, we've just been passing because we don't have the coping skills or the mechanisms or the tools. And then, of course, for you were doing that in high school, and you asked, well, wouldn't anybody have noticed to be able to pull you aside and say, we need to get you some help? You know
Nope.
what I mean?
Because the teachers at high school, right? Because the teachers would see it, but they wouldn't really talk about it. Because
Mm.
what was happening is that I was a cadet in high school, and I was a really, really good cadet. And I don't know if anybody knows what it's like
Mhm.
a paramilitary organization. So I got a lot of attention where that's concerned. I got a
Right.
lot of attention where the drama club is concerned.
Mm.
So anything that I was doing well in, that's what the school would push, and nobody, not even the guidance counselor, nobody really took it on to try to talk about me cutting myself. It's almost like they didn't want to deal with that. Like, I
Yeah.
must stop it right now. Stop it, stop it, stop. It's like say stop
Mm.
it and then you'll stop. And it doesn't work like that.
No, no. And that's very powerful because that's why so many people in the Caribbean are walking around, I call them the walking wounded. So
Mm-hmm.
many people are walking around masked up, acting like things are okay. And there are those people who are watching and going, something not right with this one here. You know, and then we get shocked when it blows up, when something blows up. We go, oh, I didn't know, but we did have signs. Um, so going to the question from Powder Monkey Gourmet Treats, they are asking here, what are the differences that you see in the way that people approach or deal with mental health in Missouri versus Jamaica?
I love that question. Because well, so you know how treat people with cancer in Jamaica? It's almost like a badge of honor, and you get like respect for coming out with that. It's the same thing in Missouri. It's almost, if you're not careful, it can be a fashion statement.
Okay. Yeah.
So there is literally no stigma associated. If I go to my boss right now and say, matter of fact, I did tell my boss I was on anxiety medication, and
Hmm.
his response was, "Okay, do you need a day or two?" And I'm like, "No, I'm on the medication, so that means I'm all right. I can work."
But he was already giving you time. You
I'm like,
know.
"Yeah, I'm good." So if you go to HR and you tell HR you're having a nervous breakdown or whatever, they are going to give you the numbers to call for free access to a counselor immediately, so
Right.
that you can get back. It's all about fixing what it is to get you back on track to work.
Yeah.
And that is the culture. That's just the culture of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas here in the Caribbean, it's like,
Yeah.
hush.
So there is no stigma. You're actually encouraged. And even me as a Black woman, no different. I am encouraged to get help, so no stigma. I haven't encountered any form of stigma, anything like that.
Yeah. And that's why I'm really happy when we have opportunities to tell these types of stories, because what it does is that it allows for us to talk about it. Sorry. So I want to say to everybody who's watching, um, this is a very serious topic. We have lots of laughter and jokes around it, but it's an important topic, and it's a serious topic. And if, as you're listening to it, and anything is coming up for you, remember that you can get help too. And I'm based in the Cayman Islands, for example, and we have counseling services that you can attend to. There's actually a counseling center that you can contact. And even in COVID times, there's now a hotline for those people who need some help. So if you feel triggered, please make every effort to reach out, tell us somebody you trust so that you can get the help you need. And I think that's the other thing is building those circles of trust, that there's somebody that you can say, hey, I'm not myself today. I'm not
Yeah.
myself today. And how have people reacted, when you talk about these things and tell the stories? I know you mentioned the one where they said that don't go so, but has it opened up other dialogue for you, to be able to reach people in a different way?
I mean, yeah, because my Instagram, if I'm not careful, I would put myself back into a panic attack, because my Instagram DMs are flooded with teenagers and little girls telling me that they are raped and they're going to the court system, and the court system is not treating them well, and they can't tell the parents, and they can't. I had to actually talk to a parent, because the girl, she wanted me to counsel her, and I'm saying, I mean, it's not, I'm not a parent, so I don't know what it's like to have a kid, but I can imagine I wouldn't want my kid to be reaching out to somebody on Instagram to talk to the kid, to talk to me, instead of coming to me as their mom. So I actually had to video call their mom and say, hey, don't feel bad because your daughter wants to kill herself. Don't feel bad because she wants to commit suicide. She can get help. Just go and bring her to therapy, because it can change. And it's good that she's reaching out at this age, because it's not late like me, who only got healing in my late 30s,
Right.
So when I share it on Instagram and stuff, people tend to reach out to me and tell me what's going on. And, I have to make sure to take care of myself, because I can't deal with everybody,
Yes. Yeah.
So I refer them to therapists in Jamaica and stuff like that. But, the reception has been warm for the most part. And also where a lot of people are now more brave to talk about how they feel. And, I think that the stigma has probably shifted by 0.00001%.
And we'll take it. I mean,
I'll take it. Celebrate the small victories.
But that's good in the sense of there's a generation coming up who, my sister always says, there are no more bones that we can push in the closet. The rug is full. You can't shove anything else under the rug. The bones spilling out of the closet. There isn't anywhere we can hide anymore. And there's a generation coming up that's going, we just can't, because we see what's happening to our parents, or we saw what was happening to grandparents. I look at my generation, and we're doing interesting things with ourselves. When you look at how people drink heavy and all these things, we are finding some other ways to deal with our depression and anxiety that's not healthy.
Yeah.
We have a comment here from Ian Levine who says anxiety is no longer a stigma, it's a reality. And Georgia Harding is saying, interesting, you mentioned that talking about mental health is trending. It's such a difficult topic to discuss when it is at times construed as a thing or a trend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what you said, you have to be careful. It doesn't become almost like a fashion statement or, like something that,
Right. Because there's a thin line between, so, people usually think that persons with a mental illness are just lazy. And then we stand the danger of persons who are actually lazy claiming to be mentally ill. And the two are quite different. You understand? So for it to be trending or to be a fashion statement is not a good thing for persons like us who actually do suffer, self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't suffer from it, Lord. Who actually have encountered a mental health issue, because then people won't take us seriously, right?
Yes.
Having a mental health issue or talking about a mental health issue is not a cop-out. It is absolutely not a cop-out. It is not a situation where life is too hard. Oh, I have a mental illness. It's not that. It's just that we have a chemical imbalance in our brain, or a biological imbalance that puts us at a disadvantage. Just as any other illness, just like if diabetes puts you at a disadvantage, you can't have a lot of sugar. Cancer puts you at a disadvantage, and I'm by no means belittling the severity of those illnesses. I'm just saying that a person with a mental illness also is at a disadvantage because of that illness. So, for it to be trending, the awareness is good, but there's a thin line between it being seen as a cop-out as opposed to being taken seriously.
And it's interesting. You talk about how, if you say you have something else, there's people are sympathetic and they're understanding. But to say that you suffer from anything that's construed as mental illness, people step away from you. And what people fail to realize is that when you are mentally unhealthy, that eventually, so all that anxiety, the depression, the stress, that will filter into your physical being, and will make you physically sick.
Yeah.
I think, more and more they're showing the correlation between the two. And that's why the stigma has to break, because they're connected. We're connected. Our bodies are connected. So, it's interesting. We'll always suffer from, issues with our health, our weight in the Caribbean, all of those things. Sometimes we don't realize it is linked to our mental state of mind. Yeah. What I noticed for you, and I have to hand it to you, you create a lot of content. I mean, I see how much you create. And content creation is a full-time job. I mean, I've recently started this brand. I do a lot of content creation to build it. So I know that I'm just doing a smidgen of what you're doing, because you're doing video. It's one thing for you to post a nice picture and a quote, but it's another thing when you're putting up video content and you have a full-time job. That's no mean feat, Miss Julie. So what motivates you to get all of this done?
All right. So I have news for you. What day is today? Today is
Saturday. Yes.
Oh, Tuesday was my last day at the job.
Why?
I resigned to do life coaching full-time and content creation full-time.
Well, congratulations.
And my boss was literally happy for me. He was like, what? Okay. So that's what you want to do? I was like, yes, I think I want to switch industries. And he's like, okay, well, that's good. That's good, because I, for one, could not be a doctor because I can't take the sight of blood. And he went on and went on and went on. And, like, best of luck in everything. And if anything, he and I are friends. I have his number. Call him if anything, because he knows that I did not get another job. He knows I am literally just floating right now, trying to figure out and whatever. So, yeah, so
that is exciting. Congratulations, because that's a bold move. It's a bold move. But I think because I've just seen the work that you've put in with your content creation. So, I mean, congrats. Well done. And congratulations coming through the chat for you as well. And do you have, so the question then is, do you have help then managing the brand, or has it just been you?
No,
So
it's
the
just me and the
your
Lord
brand.
Almighty. Just me and Jehovah Jireh. But there are some people. So I have people who like talk to me on Instagram and kind of give me advice. Those are marketing people in Jamaica. So they kind of like give me advice and stuff. I had my nephew managing me for one moment there, but I had to stop him because he became very narcissistic and was saying he's the one that is making me. And I don't know what went on in his head. Family can be crazy sometimes. Sometimes the family is not your blood, it's the people who God puts in your life to, elevate you. But so it's just me and going through the motions and, going to therapy, dealing with the different emotions, because the reason why, and my therapist had to put me back on medication when all of this became so popular, because I was healing from something else, right? I was healing from my own mental health issue, my borderline personality disorder. That's my official diagnosis. I was healing from that. And then now, boom, out of nowhere, this whole TikTok thing and public figure thing and whatever came up. So, and then how I was talking to my therapist, she's like, Juliette, I think you're going to have to go back on medication and let us see how you can manage this process. And she said, I have no doubt that this is what God wants for you. And I know that you also need the medication. My therapist is also a Christian, right? She's So that's how I ended up back on medication, and we both are seeing how it is, how it's gonna, go ahead. Maybe if I need it for a year or 2 years or whatever the case might be, So that's why I tell people the healing thing. There's no such thing as healed. You are healing. So see, I heal from one thing. And God said, all right, bam, TikTok, now you better learn how to cope with that. And you have to learn to heal and to grow and to deal with the different changing situation, you also have to be healed enough to deal with your blessings. When your blessings come, your mind has to be prepared to handle those blessings.
Yes. That's interesting that you say that, because if we're not careful, we sometimes we don't even recognize them as opportunities and blessings. And, you say something interesting too with regards to your therapist. So your therapist is a Christian therapist. So faith is important, yes, but so too is the medication. You have to take the medication. And again, that's an interesting kind of conversation in the Caribbean context as well, because medication isn't an easy journey for people who take, when you have to take medication, because sometimes there may be side effects that you don't like. And, you might feel like there are things happening that's impacting your personality, or it could be your weight. All of these things can be side effects. And there are people who just don't want to take the medication. But then, for you, it's a balance of faith, but also knowing where the science behind it is also helpful.
I wanna speak to someone, and it's piggybacking on what you're saying as well, Anik. Somebody said, "How has your faith impacted your mental health?" In fact, wow, new word. Impacted. How has your faith impacted your mental health, guys? When I was mentally ill, my faith did not help me. In fact, I became agnostic. In fact, I became so-called atheist. Right? As according to me, I don't believe in God no more.
Okay.
Right? So when you're mentally ill and when you're going through the darkness and you're going through, I'm not talking about trials and tribulations, when that's when you get on your knees and you pray through it. I'm not talking about that. I am speaking about being disenfranchised because there's a chemical imbalance in your brain. There is something that you can't do about it, that you can't do anything about it in terms of prayer. No, yes, prayer answers everything, but sometimes the answer to the prayer is go and take medication.
Yes.
Because remember, the Lord told us his first command was be fruitful and multiply. And to be fruitful doesn't only mean having kids. It means having dominion over the earth, using the smarts that he gave us, the talents that he gave us, to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, to make airplane, big piece of metal stand up in the air. So right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is because the God told us to have dominion over the earth why we can do those things. And it's the same principle in terms of creating the medication and stuff like that. So, I want to just point out that if a person is having a mental illness, they are not demon possessed, or they're not necessarily demon
Speak
possessed.
it. Speak it.
And first of all, human beings can't be demon possessed. We can be demon oppressed, but that's another technical thing, right? But so it's, if you're demon oppressed, right? That's a different thing. But it's not every time somebody have a mental illness they are demon oppressed. Sometimes it's just a biological shortage. Sometimes people are born with autism. People are born with 6 toes. People are born with all sorts of things. People are born with mental health illness, right? And as such, God has given us the power to create the medication, to create the systems in which He has put the laws of the universe in action, so that we can work accordingly and to find our own solutions. He has given us that power. The same spirit that caused Jesus to rise from the dead resides in each of us. And that's why, don't be afraid to take the medication if that is what needs to be done.
That is so powerful. And I listen, Miss Julie, this you have no idea. It speaks to my heart in ways you don't even know. It speaks to the core, because and again, if anybody feels triggered by some of the things that we're bringing up, because one of the things I always say in Caribbean Masterclasses is that we have real conversations. I love that people are recognizing it. These are conversations that need to be had in our region, and we don't shy away from things. But when you talked about when you talk about people who've committed suicide, in this day and age in the Caribbean, we still have this thought that something was, to your point, demon possessed or something like that, because and that's why they committed suicide. It's very difficult for me to hear when people make those comments, because to your point, we are talking about something that might be a chemical imbalance. You're not talking about somebody, you know what I mean? And that is also what perpetuates all of these stigmas and myths about mental health in the Caribbean. So I'm loving this. I'm loving the comments. Thanks for venturing onto the reality of mental wholeness. Medication is welcome. God gives us knowledge and doctors. Love that statement, that family can be those God puts in our life to elevate us. Georgie M says, so important that you understand, impress on the fact that it is a journey and that faith can go hand in hand with therapy and medication when needed. Miss Belinda says, some persons do not want to use medication because of side effects. What is your advice?
Yeah, so it's a process. Right? With everything, you have to try it out until it works for you. So when you try one medication, so first of all, there are so many different kinds of medication. It is crazy. And don't get me wrong, I'm not pushing medication. I'm just trying to kill the fear of taking it, right?
Yes.
So let me tell you my personal story. I was supposed to be I would have been healed from probably in my 20s if I was not so headstrong and feel that I know everything, right? The medication that they put me on first when I was in my 20s, I think it was Paxil. And man, when I take that Paxil, coming like me turn into one zombie. I was shaking when I'm walking. Me I walk so me I walk like when chassis bend, like when the car chassis bend and the car drives so, but the car leans so it goes so. That's how I was walking, right? I said, no, right, come here, hot girl. Look how me cute. Me can't walk lean. This is foolishness. Mental, I'm somebody. No, me better than this. I stopped taking it.
Yeah.
And then I tried some others. And then I tried some others. And then I just give up and never bother. But the point I'm trying to make is, right? So I'm on a medication now that the only side effect it has is that it makes it I can hear my brain. But I don't mind. I don't know. It's like, have you ever been in a room that's dead silent and then you can hear your brain? I don't know if that's that. So I can hear it, but it's no big deal for me because I hear it when the place is dead silent anyway.
Okay.
So it's a side effect that I can deal with and I don't mind.
Right.
You will always find a medication that you may have side effects and you may also have none. I have people who don't have any side effects. I knew somebody who took medication for 3 years, no side effects at all, none. So all you need to do is to keep trying. If one medication doesn't work, talk to the psychiatrist or the general practitioner, because it's the GP. So let me explain. The therapist is who is going to observe your behavior and say yes or no, you need medication. However, the biological aspect of it now has to be dealt with by an MD, which is a GP, or a psychiatrist, or, well, those are the only two that I know, right? So if you have a physical reaction to a medication, the psychiatrist or the MD can say, okay, they can run some tests or whatever and say, okay, this medication, try this one or try that one.
Right.
You'll be surprised within a couple, maybe 3 months or 2 months, you will find the medication that works just right for you.
Yes.
If you take a medication one day and you don't like it, you can go back and say, doc, me not like that medication yet. And the doctor will work with you. They're not going to force you to take that type or whatever. You know, they're going to see what your options are.
And I'm glad that is also key in the messaging, because to your point, you know, I've had conversations with people who are creatives, right? And the medication dulls that. For myself, you know, I've had with anxiety and so on, and you take things and it almost feels like everything just slows right down. And you're thinking in slow motion. And to your point, it is, you have to have the conversations to say, this is not working for me, as opposed to giving up. And that's what has happened with some people. They're like, no, to your point, no, I can't take this. You know, I can't do this. It's making me feel this way. It's making me sick. And they just give up.
For example, when you go to buy a car and you test drive it, you don't like it. You don't say, I give up. I don't want to buy a car ever. No, you go back and you test drive another car. You don't like it. You go back. And you know what to? You test drive some of them for free. Because you say, yeah, test drive for free. Right?
Yes.
Same thing, you keep testing, you know, just approach it as a situation. It's your health. You're investing in your body. You're investing in your longevity.
Yes. I'm loving it. Has meditation and breathing practices also helped in your mental health journey? That's from Nikita.
So meditation for me is thinking on something. So meditation can either be good or bad. Meditation for me is not sitting down and I don't do that because, you know, I'm Christian. So organically, the word meditation means to think or to ponder or to mull on something. And I have found that meditation can't heal you, because if your brain is already in a situation where it's not functioning properly, then how are you going to meditate? What are you going to meditate on? So if you are suffering from a mental illness and you decide to meditate, it is the same brain that has the mental illness. That's the brain that you're going to be using to meditate. And as such, you're not going to necessarily be meditating on anything good. You are going to have a struggle to meditate on good thoughts. You'll be trying to meditate on good thoughts, and then the bad thoughts come, and because you don't know how to deal with the bad thoughts, meditation does not work out for you. Also, breathing exercises, what that does, breathing makes you feel more of what you are already deciding to feel. So, for example, if you are in a state of panic or rushing and you say to yourself, I need to calm down. When you breathe, you will start to feel calm. But if you are panicking and going and then you just decide you're going to feel more panic, but just in a slower way. I don't know if I'm making it clear. You see, your brain has to be able to make those decisions before you try any of those physical exercises. So if you're doing breathing, your brain has to make the decision that I am breathing to relax. It can't just be deep breathing for deep breathing's sake. You have to decide that you're going to relax before you go into deep breathing, because all deep breathing does is allow you to feel more of what you already decided to feel.
You know, Again, it's interesting because your conversation tells us like how it affects for some of the people who are going through mental illness. And again, the fact that the brain is in a form of turmoil, and there you got to find some way to create the balance, as you say, because it's the chemical imbalance there. And there's a comment here that medication without deep spiritual beliefs and inner strengths can never work. It's a combination of different tools that you have to do, but what is key is that it's tools that address the imbalance, and then tools that do not require the medication to help balance. It's almost like you can't just decide one without the other, maybe.
Right. So I'm seeing what you're right, Anik. George, you're also right. You're saying medication without deep spiritual beliefs and inner strengths can never work. So what the medication does, it disengages that overpowering depression or illness that you have. You are not able to process what a therapist is saying to you. You are not able to unlearn bad habits. You are not able to unlearn bad thoughts and bad ways of living if you have that overpowering depression and sadness controlling your being or controlling your fiber. So what the medication does is put that overwhelming, depressive, controlling feature on the back burner just a little bit. It puts it on the back burner so that now your brain can now process and understand what the therapist is saying to you. So if the therapist is saying to you, you are a worthy person, you learned these bad habits from your parents, it's not your fault. When you have the medication setting back that overwhelming depressive disorder, you all of a sudden now heard what the therapist said and you're like, oh, okay. And then that's a process. It don't just happen in one day. So that's the medication doesn't heal you. The medication disengages you from what is preventing you from absorbing any form of positivity and any form of new habits. And then once those things become your habit, and once you have unlearned all the bad things you've learned in your past, and you have no more healthy coping mechanisms, and you are on a better journey, then the therapist can say, maybe we can wean you off the medication. Let's see how that works. And then they move you from 100 milligrams to maybe 50 milligrams, like 20 milligrams, and you're eventually that way. Or some people have to take it for the rest of their lives, depending on the severity of their issue or their progress, right? So I just wanted to explain the whole aspect of the medication and the therapy, how they balance.
Hand in hand. So I'm going to wrap up the last question from our audience asking about, can you go through healing by using naturopathic methods? Now, I'm not sure. So do you want to explain a little bit more, Sharon, about that in terms of naturopathic methods? Yeah. You're making me go Google. I'm trying here not to shame myself because this is actually, but I love that I am also learning. So I'm also naturopathics.
I mean, I don't knock any method, to be honest with you. I think healing is possible in any way.
Well, this one is self-heal. It's practices, it says here, that are considered self-healing or natural or non-invasive processes. So it's the belief that the body can heal itself. There we go. Natural instead of prescribed medication. So maybe using natural forms of medicine. So herbal medicines, acupuncture, all of those things. What do you think about those as well as forms of therapy? Or is it that, to your point, it's just testing to see what works?
Yeah, I tried those that didn't work for me. And So the natural methods may work for some people, and that's excellent. That's all well and good. The point is, the whole thing about mental health is find what works for you. And if it ends up being medication, don't be afraid of it. But I do believe, yes, Sharon, that persons can heal quote unquote naturally, because prescribed medication is not unnatural. Just because something has chemicals and it went through a process doesn't make it unnatural, because if something is man-made, then it is actually natural. It's not supernatural. But I get into that in a different conversation. Just as natural, because chemicals are natural. Sulfur is found in the earth itself. You go if you go to if a volcanic site, you find so many naturally occurring and existing chemicals that are dangerous to you, toxic. And so chemicals are also very natural. And if we do something to it and modify it, it's still natural, because we are natural human beings. Our energy is natural, our thoughts are natural, everything. But I think it can help if you go the naturopathic way. You just have to find what works for you. And the whole point about it, get healing. That's it. Healing. Whatever means ethical means possible. Get healing.
I love that. I think that's the perfect way for us to wrap up the masterclass, because we are having such a good conversation, ladies and gentlemen, but the time is drawing to a close. We only have an hour for these masterclasses, although we could probably talk to Miss Julie for days. But, I want to say thank you all. You all have been a very engaged audience. I mean, I'm loving the comments, loving the questions that have been coming through. Miss Julie, thank you, because we've had a very real conversation, and a conversation that we just need to blast right through the Caribbean. We need more and more people hearing this and not being afraid to talk about these things. I mean, we've talked about faith and healing and the need for therapy and medication. The fact that this isn't something that we should be ashamed of. And we need to be clear not to be ashamed of it, because we got to watch our young people. You started from early. So we've got to watch our young people and make sure that we are monitoring this, what might be triggering. But also, as a Caribbean people, that we just talk about the things that are being passed from generation to generation. Don't be afraid to talk in your family about your uncle or your cousin or whoever, that suffer from mental illness. And we might joke about them and the things that they did. But, these are things that in our DNA that we shouldn't be ashamed to talk about. And of course, we're going to keep watching you on Instagram and having our daily fix of laugh out loud humor. I mean, I just appreciate your characters, and all the way that you get those characters. And then because when we see you doing the mom, we all start laughing because we see your mom in there.
And Janet is me. Because you see, Janet is just all playing by herself, doing what she's doing, and the mom is just cussing, and Janet is like, continue. That was my childhood. Like, literally, I was just doing whatever I wanted to do,
But we love it. We love it. People are like, bring back Miss Julie soon. Miss Julie busy because she's a new journey of life coaching and content creation. Congratulations on that. That's a big move again. But then, you've been doing what has been bold, and we congratulate you for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. We are a wrap. Thank you for joining us in Caribbean Masterclasses. And don't forget to check us out. Our next masterclass, that's November 16th, with Daphne Ewing Chow, and she's the senior contributor for Forbes.com. Loves to talk about what we're doing in the Caribbean in an international platform, Forbes.com, for those of you who are familiar with it. And I like to talk to her about how we show up. So, for somebody who's reporting on the Caribbean at such a huge platform, how are we seen? How do we show up there? So you don't want to miss that. Send an email to me, and I'll be happy to get you to link up with that. And don't forget to subscribe for more great Caribbean Masterclass content. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, have a fabulous Saturday evening.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.